So many restaurants all go to the restaurant depot places, basically like the Costco, but for restaurants. You just get all these ingredients and different things in jumbo size. I've seen some videos that people take in those places. The ingredients are just horrific. And if you go to a nice steakhouse and you get this steak sauce on the side and you may think, oh, this is maybe like a homemade steak sauce. It might not be too bad, but in reality, it's coming from this restaurant depot place with absolutely horrific ingredients. Welcome back, everybody, to episode 50 of the Clean Kitchen podcast. Kevin, what are we talking about today?
Well, actually, we're talking about apps today. Specifically, we're going to talk about some of the most popular health-related apps. But before we get started, Kyle, I got a little bit of a surprise for you.
Yeah, let's do it.
We just passed a very important milestone in the history of the Clean Kitchen podcast. We passed 1 year of recording. Let's go.
Let's go. I did not know that. When was our 1 year anniversary?
June 28th. So just
wow.
Just 3 days ago. So 1 year, this is episode 50, which is also a huge milestone.
Yeah.
So shout out us. Yeah, I'm gonna shout out us and also all of you for listening, because that is why we do it, is for all the listeners out there. Hopefully you've learned as much as we have over the last 50 episodes, over the last year, which is crazy to say. This has been awesome.
Yeah, shout out to everyone listening. I mean, yes, good for us, but also the real people we want to thank is everyone listening to this podcast week in and week out. So thank you so much to everyone out there listening.
Oh yeah, we'll have to do some sort of a giveaway or something now that we've crossed the 1 year mark. So if you have any ideas of what you want, let us know in the comments. Leave a review on Apple or Spotify. Let us know what you think we should do to celebrate the 1 year anniversary.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into it here. So we're talking about apps. Talked about it before. Apps are fantastic resources. People use apps for a variety of things, but we're going to talk about health-related apps today. Specifically, we're going to talk about 3 apps. One is going to be Kyle's favorite app. One is going to be the most popular app. And then the third is going to be an app that gets asked about the most, but Kyle actually recommends avoiding. So we're going to start our discussion today with the most popular app on the Apple App Store, MyFitnessPal. If you've never heard of MyFitnessPal is a great way to track what you're eating over the course of a day. It allows you to scan barcodes from the products that you're using. If the barcode doesn't exist in their database, it allows you to add in the information of what you ate. And really what it does is it just helps track everything that you're eating. I actually used this app for a while, probably 4 or 5 years ago. I used MyFitnessPal just to see how much I was consuming. And it was really beneficial to understand how much you eat during the day. I think if you've never tracked what you eat before, this is a fantastic place to start because it does give you a lot of transparency into what you're eating. There's a lot of benefits too that we'll talk about. But Kyle, do you ever get people asking you about MyFitnessPal or like an app tracking device?
I don't think I've been asked about this app specifically. And by the way, too, we're just talking about specifically health-related apps, not all apps in general, health-related apps here. I have not been asked about this one, but I've actually seen a lot of people recommend this if you are trying to track your calories or track your carbs or sugar or protein, things like that. If you're trying to track things, stay on top of things, how many calories you're consuming throughout the day versus how many calories you're burning throughout the day. I believe you can also put in like exercises and things like that, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So in terms of that, yes, I have heard people talk about it, but no, I've never been asked about this, but it seems like a solid app.
Yeah, it does. I think it is. I would call it almost like a gateway app into health and nutrition, where it's a great first step for a lot of people.
Starting point.
Yeah, getting into this. It is very much focused on macros, which for people that have not heard those, that's carbs, fats, and proteins. Those are the 3 categories that people mean when they're talking about macros. And it's all about counting those macros. And this is something I hear a lot of people in the health and nutrition space talk about, is counting macros. And if you have a goal to lose weight, then making sure that your macros are meeting those goals. Do you, Kyle, ever track your macros?
Never.
No. Why don't you?
I think a lot of people that do track their macros, they were told to basically help them lose weight. They want to lose weight. They went on Google, they went on YouTube, and someone told them, hey, you got to start tracking your macros, which is perfectly fine. I'm not against it at all. I personally have never had the need to lose weight. So I have never felt the need to track my macros. I've never felt the need to track how many calories I'm consuming. Now, I have previously used something called Chronometer on just Google. I haven't downloaded the app or anything, just Chronometer, which based on your description of MyFitnessPal, it sounds very, very similar. Sounds like it's basically the same exact thing. I've used that to track how much protein and carbs I was consuming on a daily basis. Less because I wanted to lose weight and more just for my genuine interest in how much protein and carbs and fat that I was consuming on a daily basis. I was trying to hit a certain amount of protein per day. If you've listened to the episode where we talked with Angelo Keeley, he's the co-founder of Kion, and he basically recommended that if you're trying to, one, lose weight, but also gain muscle, try to aim for 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. So right now, I'm around 165 pounds. So I'm comfortable with that weight. I don't think I need to gain weight or lose any weight. So I was trying to get 165 grams of protein total per day. So that's the only instance that I've actually used one of these apps or websites to track these things. Same thing with carbs. I was trying to have a certain amount of carbs. I think it was like 150 or 200 grams of carbs per day. So I was just tracking, just playing around with it. Okay, if I ate this much fruit or rice or whatever these different foods are that contain carbs, I was just seeing kind of a general ballpark of how many carbs I was consuming per day. So I've used it, one-off instances like that, but I'm not using it on a daily basis at all whatsoever.
No, I think that's one of the main benefits there that you mentioned is you get this transparency or insight into how much it's kind of like we talked about the Aura Ring previously, where you get all this data on your sleep and maybe if you're using it while you exercise, how many calories you're burning while you exercise. And I would say that plus a couple other benefits, which we'll talk about here, but there are also some downsides, which I want to hit on using MyFitnessPal. But before that, the benefits here. So it's insight. One of the other huge benefits here is, as related to insight, is portion control. You would be shocked, a lot of people, myself included, when you go out to eat at a restaurant, especially here in America, the size of the portion compared to how much you actually probably should be consuming. There's a huge difference. I remember whenever either I've gone to Europe or other people have gone to Europe, one of the constant feedback points I hear is that the portions are so much smaller, but they feel just as full, if not more full, because they're getting those satiating foods. So that's another big difference is you do get insight into the portion control. There's also a community built around MyFitnessPal. So they have different channels and forums that you can use and reach out to and get insight from people, which is really helpful. I think a lot of nutritionists and health coaches use MyFitnessPal because it does allow for you to share your information with people. So if you're working with a nutritionist, you can share your profile, what you've been eating, and then they can learn what you've been up to and get insight into that. So for all those reasons, MyFitnessPal is great.
Well, that's kind of cool that you can share it with someone that's helping you out.
Exactly. Yeah. Definitely.
That's cool.
Get the coaching you need.
Yeah. I would say too, one not counterpoint or argument to your point, but I feel like when I eat out, and maybe that's just because of the way that I'm used to eating, but when I eat out, I always leave restaurants starving. I'm always still so hungry, but also it depends on what you're ordering.
Yeah. I would say you're picky though. You don't eat a lot of the stuff that comes out.
Yeah. We went bread.
Yeah. That's
as an appetizer. Chips.
Yes. We went to a restaurant. We were at a family wedding and we probably ordered we ordered a certain amount of appetizers that came out. There were 6 or 7 appetizers for the table. And I was getting in there, going for everything, trying everything. And Kyle did not touch a thing. And then I leave. I'm like, man, that was so filling. I ate so much food. And Kyle's like, man, I didn't touch anything.
I'm like, man, I'm starving. I could eat a steak right now.
Yeah. So that could be playing a role.
Definitely. Because a lot of people will leave restaurants feeling full, but they're not actually satiated. They're not actually like satisfied. It's more of like, oh, I'm full, I overate, and now I'm bloated. And they think they're quote unquote full, which they are full, but they're not actually like satiated or satisfied. And, we talk about it all the time, but I think that's where the high quality protein comes in. Make sure, and I don't want to say all the time, when you go out, enjoy, if you want to have a piece of pasta or pizza or something like that, great, go for it. But just know that is not really going to satisfy or satiate you. You want that high quality protein, chicken, fish, meat, things like that.
Yep.
Side
absolutely.
note, but worth mentioning.
It's good. It is good to know. And it's actually related to me, my biggest issue with MyFitnessPal, which is it doesn't tell you whether what you're eating is good or not. Specifically, what I mean is the ingredients in the foods that you're eating. I just was doing some research before the episode, and I watched a full tutorial on MyFitnessPal. And this was by no means sponsored by MyFitnessPal or anything, but the individual who is a nutritionist goes through examples of how to upload food into the app. And he uses 2 examples of foods that he uploads. The first is a pure protein bar, and the second is Nature Valley granola. And he's using these as good, healthy examples to put into... Good? Yeah, 100%.
Oh,
healthy examples to put into MyFitnessPal. And MyFitnessPal, its job is not to tell you what you're eating is good or bad. That is not what it's designed for. And because of that, you do have to have a baseline knowledge of what foods you should be eating. So it requires some expertise, I would say, in order to use it effectively. And even nutritionists out there and health coaches might be leading you astray if they're recommending pure protein. I know pure protein is probably one of your least favorite protein bars out there, Kyle.
Yeah, that one's pretty bad.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that you should totally ignore macronutrients. You should totally ignore the protein, fat, and carbohydrates in these products. But the first thing you should be looking at are the ingredients. Look at the quality of the protein, carbs, and fat. And if the quality isn't there, if the ingredients aren't there, then I don't care how good the macros are. So many fitness influencers like, check the macros, check the calories, check the carbs, check the protein, check the fat. It's like, great, check it. But the first thing you should check is the ingredients. And if the ingredients aren't there, then the macros don't matter.
100%. I think it was one of the first episodes we talked about, are all carbs created equal? And your answer was no. And so it doesn't matter if you think you're getting the right amount of carbs if those are not good quality carbs.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So that is MyFitnessPal. Definitely some good, but just be careful when you're using it of the information you need to also have to use it effectively, I would say. All right. The next app here that we have is, Kyle, one of the apps that you get asked about the most, and you actually made a reel saying, do not use this app. First, it's called the Yuka app. What is the Yuka app, and why don't you recommend it?
Yeah, this one must be very, very popular because I get a lot of questions about it. I have over the past few years, and I continue to get questions about it as well. So much to the point where I did make a reel about it, explaining that, it's not the best. So Yuka app, it's great in terms of the utilization. It's an app on your phone. You scan any product at the store, and it'll break down basically similar things to what we just talked about that it shows you in MyFitnessPal. So it'll show you the protein, it'll show you fiber, sugar, sodium, saturated fat, and calories. So that looks like the main things it'll show you. Maybe it'll take in some other things into account as well, depending on the product. But it does not take into account the ingredients. It doesn't take into account the quality of the ingredients. One of the main things, or 2 of the main things that I don't like about this app are that if it has more than 2 grams of saturated fat, it'll say that the product is bad. Most of the products that I recommend to people that contain more than 2, 3, 4 grams of saturated fat, it's normally coming from healthy fats, things like coconut oil or beef tallow or things like that. Unrefined, if you will, fats that I recommend. So that's my first problem with Yuka. It's saying, if it's high in saturated fat, it's bad because the government tells us saturated fat is bad, which is a topic for another day. And I'm sure it's a topic we've talked about multiple times already on this podcast. But that's the main problem I have with the Yuka app. The other thing is it takes into account calories. And basically, if the calories are above a certain threshold, then it also says the product is bad. But again, what if it's using all high quality, satiating ingredients, which is making the calories go up? For example, I went to Costco the other day, and I went there to meet a founder of a company called BTR Nation. It's like a protein bar, and they just launched their product in Costco. And I was talking to her, and she was saying that a lot of people from Costco are coming around and they notice, it's a new product at Costco. So they take out their Yuka app and they scan it. And a lot of people see, oh, it's high in saturated fat, it's high in calories. I'm not going to buy it because it rates everything from 0 to 100. Mm-hmm. And this specific bar, it gives it a 39 out of 100, which is pretty low.
Yeah,
pretty bad.
That's an F.
That's an F. But then you look at the ingredients, and it's mostly real whole food ingredients. And I'm like, this is totally backwards. And she was saying the same thing. She's like, this is so sad. Like, people are scanning a product like this with mostly real whole food ingredients, and it's coming up as a poor option. Mm-hmm. So that's one of my main concerns with the Yuka app. It takes into account the saturated fat and the calories, and I don't know, it kind of misinterprets the data, in my opinion, because it doesn't take into account the ingredients.
Yeah, this is the danger of scoring foods. So MyFitnessPal made the decision to stay away from giving any foods a score because it can be difficult to score every single food using some sort of algorithm without actually going in and like reading the ingredients and scoring it. So this is where, if you do get into scoring foods, you have to be careful of what you're looking at. What metrics are they using? You called it out here. Saturated fats and calories are two that they use that drive, seems to a large degree, that score that you're getting. And so you have to be careful of that. So you in your Reel 2, you used the Yuka app to scan your favorite cereal, 7 Sundays, and it gave it a horrible score for the same reason you mentioned, that saturated fat in the 7 Sundays cereal. So do you not recommend using it at all? Or do you say you can use it, but you have to know these things?
Yeah, you can use it as a guide, but the problem is, and I see people using it all the time in stores. Maybe I should, talk to these people more to see, how exactly they're utilizing the app. But I think for the most part, people are scanning it, they're looking at the score, and they're buying it or not buying it. And that's it. They're not scrolling and looking through, oh, okay, it's got some sodium, but the sodium's coming from unrefined sea salt. Oh, it's got some sugar, and like this one, for example, is like, oh, this one says it's high in sugar, but it's coming from real maple syrup. Like, I don't think the majority of people are doing that. They're not looking at the quality of those macronutrients and other aspects of the snack or whatever they're picking up. So I think it can be used as a guide. In fact, it does have one category in here where it says it takes into account additives. And then there's also something that says organic, whether it's organic or not. So I like this fact that it says that it takes into account additives, and it'll tell you if there's any additives in there, basically like preservatives and things like that. And then also organic. Hey, yeah, it's great that there's no synthetic pesticides or herbicides used in here. But don't just follow the app blindly, I guess I would say. Take into account those ingredients. Because if it has, according to this, if it has more than 1.4 grams of saturated fat, it starts to not recommend the product. Yeah. Which isn't necessarily a red flag in my opinion.
Right. It seems like a pretty hard cutoff to implement there. And I guess people want something that tells them whether it's good or not. Because most people, 99% of people, not even most, more than most, do not have the time to understand each and every ingredient that goes into all these foods. It's just too complicated. And I'm right there with you. I would love an app that just scanned and told me realistically what I want to use. And so the two biggest points of feedback that I saw on the reel that you posted related to Yuka is, one, people do use it purely for additives. That seemed to be one of the largest points of feedback is I scan it and I'm looking for whether or not there are additives in this food, which sounds like that's a good use of the app.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And then the second one is that most people actually used Yuka to scan beauty products, shampoo, deodorant, hand soap, that kind of stuff, What have you heard about using Yuka for non-food related items?
So I have not done this personally, but I have had a lot of people tell me that they do that. And I've actually heard a lot of good things from trustworthy people that say that that is a much better way to use the Yuka app. Again, if you can still look at those and look at the ingredients, and I know it's much more difficult with personal care products. But just don't take the app at face value. Dig into it a little bit more if you can, if you have the time. But I think, yes, using the app just purely for personal care products, I think is a much better option.
Yeah. I think that makes sense.
Than foods.
The ingredients in the personal care, all of them are chemicals for the most part, and so they are tough to understand. So that could be a good use for it. When you were speaking with the founder, I think it was BTR Nation, you said, and she was there and she was aware of the fact that Yuka did not give her product a high score. Did she say if she reached out to the company at all?
No, she didn't say. No. And I asked her too if she wanted me to, post a quick story explaining like, hey, if you scan this on the Yuka app, it'll give it a bad score, but it's not necessarily the case. She said not to share that. But no, I don't think she reached out to them or anything.
No.
I wonder if companies are doing that.
I would be curious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if it is this popular and people are not buying the product because of it, I would want people to know.
Yeah. It could be seriously hurting their sales.
For sure. Yeah. Especially if they're not aware of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there actually is another app that does something very similar to the Yuka app. It's called the Bobby Approved app. It's free. Whereas I think the Yuka app it's $20 a year. So not too expensive.
Oh, is it? I know you can
$20 a year, Yuka app.
Download it for free, but I guess maybe there's a certain number of free scans you get or something.
There might be, yeah.
I can't say I've used it that much, so I must not have hit my
You're still within the free range.
My max scans. Yeah. And something else too, like if you scan something and it says bad or it says poor option, it'll recommend better options to you. And sometimes these make me laugh.
Uh-oh. What's an example?
Like for example, if we're staying on the BTR Nation bar here, it says that one's poor. And then if you scroll down, it'll give you recommendations. And for example, this says the Cliff Bar is a much better option, or this brand, which I've also, interesting. Did it give me, it looks like it gave me specific, the few recommendations that it gave me first, which is actually pretty cool. It gave me recommendations from Costco, it looks like.
Oh, that's cool, because I guess it thinks you're already there.
Yeah, so I guess it knows. That's kind of cool. But it gave me 3 other protein bar recommendations at Costco, all with a better score. And I would put BTR Nation above all 3 of these other options. So, again, don't take it at face value. Don't just look at what it recommends. Look at the ingredients.
Yep. Think through it as well.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. The Bobby Approved app.
Yeah.
So it does something very similar to Yuka. Is that right?
Very similar, but it takes into account the ingredients. So same thing, you download the app, you scan a product, and it will basically tell you it's more black or white. It's basically, it'll tell you if it's Bobby approved or not. There's not really an in the middle. It's either good to go or not good to go. And I would recommend using this app over the Yuka app 10 times out of 10, because it takes, the first thing it does is take into account the ingredients and the quality of the ingredients. And if there's an ingredient in whatever product you scanned that Bobby doesn't like, and for those that don't know Bobby, he's Flav City. I'm sure you've seen videos of him before on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, things like that. But if he doesn't approve of the product, it'll single out the specific ingredient or ingredients that he doesn't like. It'll label it in red. And I think you can actually click on it and go into more detail about why he doesn't like that specific ingredient. And, 99% of the things that Bobby talks about, I 100% agree with him on. So this is a really good app if you're looking for something easy and effective and something that's actually going to give you good advice on what products to buy versus avoid.
Yeah, 100%. And free.
And it's free.
Yeah, free to use.
There you go.
Can you use this on stuff like meat? Like if I go into the meat section and I'm looking for the best ground beef out there, could I use it to compare those options as well? Is it more so like snack type food?
I would assume so. but I'm not actually. I'm not actually sure. I think I only used it like once ever. Because I feel like I have the Bobby approved app built in my brain already. But yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Like you mean like so if you're going down the meat aisle and you're like, oh, I don't like if there's a grass fed versus a regular versus something else.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yep. Yeah, I'll have to test that out
Yeah.
to see. I would be curious because I guess just regular ground beef might still be Bobby approved.
Yeah.
But there might be just a better and best option.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. Or depending on if it's organic or non-GMO, things like that. So
yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, really good app. Would definitely recommend it.
Yeah. 100%. It is one that it's focused on what we talk about all the time, the ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're all about here. Speaking of ingredients, so we talked about the most popular app on the App Store within the health section. We talked about the most commonly asked app for Kyle. Now, Kyle, let's talk about your favorite health-related app out there. It is called Seed Oil Scout. What is it, and why do you love it so much?
So this is really, really, really good for when I'm traveling. That's like the main time I actually use this app. Seed Oil Scout is what it's called. And it basically tells you can look at it at a map view and it'll show you all the restaurants that are near you. And it will basically give them a check, a green check. It'll give you a red X, or it'll give you a green star. And I'll go into detail about what each of these means. So if it gives you an X, if it gives you a red X, that means it is not seed oil free. So basically what this app takes into account specifically is if this restaurant uses seed oils. And when I say seed oils, I mean canola oil, soybean oil, sunflower, safflower, corn, rice bran, all those types of oils. Those are all seed oils. And they're thought to have a negative effect on our health. They're very high in omega-6 fats. They're oxidized. They're toxic to our cells, basically, and they should be avoided when possible. So the idea behind the app Seed Oil Scout is finding a restaurant that doesn't use any of these seed oils, or if they do, is there an option to swap out the seed oil for something else like olive oil, avocado oil, grass-fed butter, beef tallow, all those sorts of things. So the app is fantastic. So like I said, if it gives you a red X, it usually means that there's nothing there that you could get that is seed oil free. Like you can't even substitute, there's probably a bunch of pre-made stuff already. And it's not possible. So unfortunately, those are all off the list.
Yeah.
The next thing, is a green check. And there's a couple of different ways, and you can click on each restaurant and kind of go into more detail. I actually love the app because a lot of users of the app will go in and write a review on that specific restaurant. So, for example, we were just in Charlotte, North Carolina for a wedding a few weeks ago. I went on the app. I looked to see if there were restaurants nearby. I found one, and it said it was a green check, and I clicked on it, and it said, they use canola oil when they're baking or when they're making this, but you can ask the waiter or waitress to swap the canola oil for olive oil, and they'll do it for you. So I don't know, just like going into the restaurant, knowing that they're able to make that swap for you, I think is so beneficial. So that's a great feature of the app that people are kind of leaving their advice for you within the app. So that's like the green, the green check, it'll be like either a swap or they'll have other options for you that are seed oil free. But the green star, you see the green star, that basically means it's 100% seed oil free. Nothing there uses seed oils. You're good to go. You can get anything there, and you're not going to be consuming seed oils. Yeah. I know that was a lot. Any questions? What did I miss there?
No, I think that the community-driven aspect of it is really cool. Generally, it feels like there is a very, very strong trend to avoid seed oils, which you've been pushing now for years. But at first, when people get into really starting to understand ingredients, everything seems so complicated. But one of the first things that you recommend is avoiding seed oils. And it's because of all the negative side effects. And the reason I love Seed Oil Scout is because it simplifies that for you. All of this can feel overwhelming. And this app is fantastic at what it is trying to accomplish, which is helping people avoid seed oils. And so that's why I think it's fantastic at doing that, and can be used especially when you're eating out, traveling to a new place, helping you find a restaurant. Maybe you're going out with friends. You can use Seed Oil Scout as that first filter. So the few times that you have used it, you mentioned just in Charlotte. Wait, did it feel accurate? Like, is it a good app with what it does?
It's definitely, it's definitely accurate. Yeah, absolutely. And something else I forgot to mention too is there's kind of like some restaurants may have like a caution sign next to it. And that's like it says dine cautiously. So it's like some dishes can contain seed oils. So again, you just want to ask and make sure. But going back to your point too, like if you are, traveling with friends or you're on vacation, take initiative. And we've talked about this before, but go on the Seed Oil Scout app and see if there's a restaurant near you that is seed oil free, and, tell your friends that's where you want to go. And most of the time, if you're the one that takes initiative, you find the restaurant, you book the reservation, things like that, and it's a good restaurant, your friends are going to love you, and you're not going to consume seed oils in the process, and they're not going to consume seed oils. So you're looking out for your own health and your friends' health.
Yeah.
But yeah, the times I've used it, it's worked great. Yeah. It really has. I'd say that unfortunately, there's not a ton of restaurants on there. I think they're slowly but surely adding them in. If you go to places like New York or California, there's way more options. There's like when I was in New York City a few months ago, there are so many seed oil free options, like a few on every block. Like there's so many. But then you come here, like Raleigh, North Carolina, where Kevin and I are. It's like I'm looking at the app right now on my phone, and I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 restaurants, within basically in Raleigh, 7 or 8 restaurants that are seed oil free. Whereas you go to New York, and I mean, I don't want to say hundreds, but maybe you would find hundreds of restaurants. So depending on where you are, there's going to be more or less seed oil free restaurants to go to. But when I am traveling, this is the first thing I check to see what's around me. And it's been great.
If you go to a restaurant that isn't on there and it is seed oil free, can you add it?
I believe you can. Yes. I don't know if you can do that directly through the app, but you can probably at least email them and let them know, and then they'll add it.
Yeah. So it's almost like a Yelp kind of thing where people do review it. I'm sure on the back end, Seed Oil Scout is checking to make sure people aren't lying, or maybe it needs a certain amount of reviews before it gets there. So I guess that's also maybe a call to action here for people that do want this to be more readily available in your area. Go out and use it and let Seed Oil Scout know of the good restaurants that are out there. I do feel like related to this, a lot of smaller businesses, a lot of one-off non-chain restaurants are the ones that will prioritize using real ingredients, non-seed oils. So you're also supporting local businesses, which is really cool, that are in your area. Whereas a lot of the larger chains might just try to be making food cheaper. And and as a result, we'll use seed oils.
Yeah, exactly. And so many restaurants, chain restaurants and just regular restaurants, they all go to, the like the restaurant depot places, basically like the Costco of restaurants. And, you get a membership if you're a restaurant owner, and you it's basically like a Costco, but for restaurants. You just get all these ingredients and different things in jumbo size. I've seen some videos that people take in those places showing the ingredients of some of these products, and it's so bad. Like, for example, if you go and you get like a steak sauce or something like that, the ingredients are just horrific. And if you go to a nice steakhouse and you get this steak sauce on the side, and you may think, oh, this is maybe like a homemade steak sauce, it might not be too bad. But in reality, it's coming from this restaurant depot place with absolutely horrific ingredients. So once you see where a lot of these sauces and even like salad dressings, that was the other thing I saw. Like so bad ingredients. So just be extra cautious when dining out. And obviously, I don't want to scare people if you're eating out every once in a while. Don't panic, don't freak out about it. But if you are really trying to do the best you can, I highly recommend using this app. I do think you do have to pay for this app.
Yeah.
Do you have the price on the top of your head?
$20 as well. $20 a year.
Okay.
For this one.
$20 a year. Okay, that's not bad. See, that's totally worth it in my opinion.
Yeah. A few bucks a month.
Yeah.
And not even $2 a month.
Exactly. To really, take your health to the next level, in my opinion. Because at least for me personally, when I'm eating out, that's when I'm exposed to these seed oils. And I'm not perfect either. I don't use this app 100% of the time, but I do use it when I can. And it's a great tool to have.
100%. Yeah, this is an easy way to upgrade your health and take something that you're probably already doing at home, avoiding seed oils, and then making sure that that's something that's continuing throughout your own health journey. Have you ever been to a restaurant where they actually list out all of the ingredients of the food in the menu itself?
No.
That would be cool.
That'd be awesome.
I've never seen that.
No, I've never seen that. If I open a restaurant one day, though, maybe
full ingredients.
I'll definitely do that.
Yeah, it'll be like a book, the menu,
or even a QR code on the menu, and then you scan it, and then you can click on each menu item, and then it'll give you a detailed ingredient list. Because even, for example, we were just in Florida a few weeks ago. A bunch of us influencers were there, healthy influencers. So of course, if we were going out, we were checking the Seed Oil Scout app. We were doing all of these things. And if we went to a restaurant that wasn't on the Seed Oil Scout app, we would always ask the waiter or waitress, what is this being cooked in? What's in this sauce? Is there soybean oil in here? And unfortunately, a lot of the times the waiter or waitress didn't even know what was in the salad dressing, for example, or even what the steak was being cooked in. One of the restaurants we went to, I guess, was not seed oil free. We initially thought it was because it was recommended to us by someone. And we went there and we all got basically steaks or chicken or things like that. And we asked what the steak was cooked in, and she had no idea. In fact, I think initially she was like, I think it's olive oil, but I'll double check. And we're like, oh, great, perfect. And she was like, I'll double check. So she goes and she's like, yep, it's olive oil, but it's a blend, and there's also sunflower oil in it. And I was like,
no. Did you leave?
No, we didn't leave. We asked them, I forget if we asked them if I think they had regular olive oil. I was not confident that it was pure high quality olive oil. It seemed like it was, if you go to the store and you see a clear bottle of olive oil, that's normally refined olive oil, and it's pretty low quality. It's usually in the clear bottle. It's oxidized. And I had a feeling that's what they had there, but I think that's what they ended up cooking the steaks in.
Yeah. So not perfect.
Not perfect.
Why not just use butter?
I know. We asked them that. We were like, do you have butter? And
have to have butter.
And she was like, we have plant-based butter. And I was like, are you kidding me? You don't have butter?
Why ruin a good thing?
I know. I'm like, you don't have real butter? Yeah. So we're never going back to that restaurant.
No.
But besides that, the other restaurants that we went to were very good. And we had multiple people or multiple restaurants accommodate us, because we were like, what is this cooked in? And they were like, sunflower and canola oil. They're like, oh, can we use olive oil or butter instead? And for the most part, they said yes. So don't be afraid to ask that. And I would recommend asking that kind of towards the beginning of your meal.
Yeah.
This is something that I've learned with being with other people that ask similar questions. Once you sit down, once you get the menu, just be like, hey, what's your steak cooked in? Because sometimes it's a lot of back and forth between the kitchen and the table. So the earlier that you can kind of get this out in the open, and even saying, hey, fully transparent, I'm allergic to seed oils, things like soybean, canola, sunflower oil. So, what swaps do you have that I can make for these things? And usually it's, you want to ask butter, olive oil, avocado oil, and beef tallow.
Yeah.
butter and olive oil are probably the two most common swaps that most restaurants should have on hand.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if they don't have those. But that's a great pro tip there is don't like hold up your whole table. So get it asked early. Even maybe call ahead and ask.
Yep, definitely. You could even call ahead. You can email them ahead. But yeah, it's difficult when you're like going around ordering and then you're like, hey, what is this cooked in? Oh, I don't know. Back and forth. And then sometimes your order is delayed. So yeah, get it out in the open initially.
Yeah. Okay. So we got 3 apps here, 4 really with the Bobby Approved app that we talked about that are helpful tools when used right, I would say. And you can really use multiples of the ones that we talked about in different ways. I think that might be one of the best ways to use these apps is in tandem with other ones. But anything else too that you want to talk about here on the apps?
No, I would just say ultimately my recommendations would be, if you are grocery store shopping, use the Bobby Approved app. If you are eating out, use the Seed Oil Scout. Those 2 apps particularly will get you very far. Although Kevin and I were talking to Carly, our sister, yesterday, Clean Living Carly on Instagram. She does all non-toxic personal care products. And she recommended the EWG app as well for personal care products specifically. You can, similar to these other apps we've talked about, it's an app you download, you open it up, and you can scan the barcode of any product, and it will give that product A, B, C, D, or F, a rating. And it'll actually go into detail about each ingredient and give each ingredient a letter grade as well.
Wow.
So, again, do your own research on these things, but this can also be a very, very good guide, especially when buying personal care products because it's so confusing. There's so many chemicals. You can't pronounce half the ingredients. So EWG app is another one that I would recommend for personal care products.
Perfect. And we will leave a link to all of these apps in the video description for you guys all to check out. That's it. That's all we got. Episode 50.
Yeah, that was great. Good episode all about apps. If you have any questions, please let us know. Please leave a rating and review on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a subscribe. Give us a like. Hit that like button if you like this topic. But thanks so much for listening. We will see you next week.